Morning, it's Martin's Engine Services. Well, sitting on the bench in front of me is the 1.4 Vauxhall GM cylinder head from the stock car engine that I've been finishing off building. This is actually a spare engine, which is basically built from some leftover components from the disaster we had with the stretchy head bolts. This is actually the cylinder head from that engine, which literally only did probably 12, 14 laps before it expired. And so what's happened with this head, we've sent it off and had it refaced. It was only a tiny little bit out. Now, given the fact it's done so little use, I haven't actually taken the valves out, but I've checked that they're all sealing by pouring cellulose paint thinner down the individual ports and leaving it about 5 minutes in each cylinder to see if it leaks. And that stuff is very, very aggressive and will find its way out. There's no leakage on any of the valves, so they're all sealing 100%. So I'm not going to touch them. I had all new valve stems. Marty's got the words wrong again. Had all new valve stem oil seals last time, so I've no reason to suspect there's any problem in there. So I've given it a thorough clean, blown it off. It's all ready to go. So now it's a case of reassemble. As you can see, we've got all the essential components laid out: oil can, clean rag, hydraulic lifters, cup of tea, 3 biscuits, and all the parts over there. So there's the engine ready to go. In fact, yesterday the spare stock car engine and all its relevant parts went, so that's cleared that. And also the 1400 Fiesta Puma engine was collected, so we've got space over there. So in the corner there now we've got the old Cantax mower, which doesn't appear to have hemorrhaged too much oil out during the night, which is always good. And the old Lister G1, which I'll be tinkering around on the weekend. So back to the job in hand. There's no particular rush for this. I think they've got a few spare meetings, and the one that I built, the spare engine that I built originally, got thrown into serious action and did two weekends in succession. They were both Saturday, Sunday meetings, so it's done some serious race miles without a problem, which is nice. So I say this is just a spare. There's no rush for this, but I thought I might as well get this done, and all the parts are out of the way, and that's the job finished. I don't like leaving jobs laying around like this. So I'll put things in the stand and we shall proceed. Right, so as usual, first thing to do, put the hydraulic tappets in and put the cams in. I won't bore you with the full details of all that lot, so I'll bring you back when I'm somewhere close to the cams. Right, that's all the lifters in. Usual mystery. Lifter in there, doesn't want to go in, goes tight. And take it out of there, put any other place it goes, pick any other one up, it fits in that one. Why? No one knows. Right, on these camshafts, so they do have exactly the same part number. Good old GM, but there is a difference in the lift. So if you're not sure which one to use, which one's which, measure them, and you will find that the inlet should have 0.5 mil more lift. So there is obviously the inlet peak is higher. It's as simple as that. So I just measure them and then put a bit of tape on the end of one of them and just write on it. Dead simple. And as always, there is a bit of a sweet spot where they will line up. Just move you around a little bit there. Hang on, folks. Technical difficulties. The camera mounting's fallen to pieces. That's it, all repaired. No one crashed to the floor hideously. Right. So there is a sweet spot where these cams sit nicely so that everything just works out, so you're not pulling them down with the caps. Usual procedure. Plenty of oil. Get all the numbers in order. For no particular reason, I've started with the exhaust cam. The bearing caps on this are labelled 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. On these, the numbers all face outwards, so you can't go too far wrong. Just thinking, this poor old cylinder head has been the veteran now of, must have done about 3 years, I should imagine. And the original engine this was under before it ate the piston was over rather, was also, there's that same thing, and that bottom end had done some serious race miles. Pretty commendable old thing. It's a bit sad when I threw it away actually. It's laying out there now going rusty, but it's got a lug missing or half cracked off the block. This also would need a bore. Oversized pistons aren't exactly easy for these, so its time had come. We did find a set of oversized pistons on the continent somewhere. They're only half a mil over, and that block wouldn't have cleaned at half a mil. And he has got an awful lot of spare engines now, bits and pieces, so it was time to say goodbye to that one. Anyhow, this is the usual procedure. You've seen me do it loads of times, so I'll just bring you along for a few bits and pieces as we go. Now, as usual, most critical part of these is making sure you just get the sealer on that very edge of the bearing cap. And I've mentioned it many times, but not in that groove. That is not going to help you at all. As I said, the cam cover gasket comes around here and will seal on that corner, and then that seals the rest. You do not need to seal that. Those oil holes and oil grooves are all meant to be there for a purpose. It's very tempting to think they are actually silicone grooves, and they are not. So the oil will sit behind this seal, the oil pressure comes around here, you'll get quite a leakage. That's all you need. I have made sure that I've got all the necessary parts here, because all the other parts have gone back. I do have quite a selection of nuts and bolts laying around from the various engines I've stripped along the way, but I haven't got any other major components here. So it might be an emergency dash up the road to where the guy lives to go and collect something. So according to plan, we have all the bits. As I always like to do, is to put all the parts laid out, all the bolts in various little cups and lids and label everything, so I know I've got one complete engine's worth of parts, one total set for assembly, and no extra bits. But I suppose it would be quite an amusing scenario. I did double check it yesterday to be on the safe side. Right, so another camshaft. There's my scientific labelling system. Inlet. Please take the bit of tape off before you put it back in. No, that's not as good as it could be. There we go. Right. I was watching a video last night. There's a guy who does a lot of stock car racing and other bits and pieces, and he's just reassembled his 1400 stock car engine. And while they were assembling it, they were using the same brand of head bolts that I had the problem with, and one of them actually snapped off on the last stage of tightening. They were saying how tight they were going, and of course I think the same problems happened. They haven't stretched, and he's kept going, as you quite rightly would do. And as I said in that video I made about that, it's tempting to think that they're going, but they're not. And the top of one of them snapped off. Fortunately, it's only the actual Torx part that snapped. It's left the rest of the bolt, so it's still tight enough. But I did happen to notice they were the same brand, and I thought, I did actually, I've actually contacted the guy that or left them a message just to see whether or not they're going to do a follow-up. Because it does seem quite amazing that it happened to them as well. And they put lots of engines together along the way, so it looks like there could be a potential bad problem there with them bolts. So I haven't named and shamed the manufacturer of the bolts, it's not fair, but there's obviously something happened. And they were fortunate, he was on the last, I think the last 45 degrees when it went. So, and interested to note, they were using the multi-layer steel head gasket as well, which has got hardly any give in it. So it may have, what's that big word, accentuated the problem. I'm not sure, and I'm not making any blame on anybody or anything. It was just an observation I made. I bet you didn't know the Motor Trade knew big words like accentuate. No, I can't spell it. There we go. There we go. And that's that. Just quick go along with the talk now. Always make sure the oil seal is back against the housing. That's it. You can't always go by the cap as opposed to the bottom part, because obviously the cap is just cast and it's stuck on there, and there's quite a step between the two. They don't truly line up because obviously they're all line board and they're machined on the head. So again, it's quite safe. If you find the oil seal looks like it's a bit high there, make sure it's in firmly at the bottom and they'll be square. If you push it into the cap, it'll tip. I mean, you can see here it's slightly inboard there and slightly outboard there, but then this steps back a bit, so don't go by that. As long as it's home at the bottom, that's fine. So I've just got to tighten all those up, and then basically we're ready to stick it back on the engine. And then it's head bolt time. No, I've got another set of bolts, the same as I used on the previous engine, which went up perfectly. So as soon as they went up fine, I immediately purchased a second set just to be on the safe side. So I'll tighten it all up and then we're ready to stick it on the engine. Right, well, there's the head sitting in place. Usual procedure, set the cam timing as close as possible, so there's no risk of any valve problems. Set the pistons halfway down the bores. Clean the top of the block when it was already clean. It's all been blown out and all been covered up. I have sprayed a bit of like water dispersant, sort of, well, oily sort of spray into the cylinders, because this probably won't be run for quite some time. Likewise, the valves have had a coating. I've now done the basics of just nip the heads down, the head bolts down. So now I'm going to torque them down to the first stage, and it's angle time. It's all the usual sort of stuff, really. Make sure it's all clean and tidy, and away you go. So let's just pull these down. I've got a diagram down here, you can't see it in case you think I've remembered it. So I always go around these again, because I've found as you slowly pull things down, they will move a bit. So obviously this one here was probably on at about 13 foot-pounds, not 18. So when you start your first 90, you're going to be starting in the wrong place. So I like to make sure all these are down exactly against the torque. The outer ones never seem to move, it's only the inner ones, which just shows you how the stresses come out and how the gaskets settles down. There we go. Let's just check the middle ones again. Yeah. Oh, no, so they've all stayed now, so that means everything's starting in the right point. Because otherwise, to my thinking, you'll start off with these two are going to be looser, the loosest, then these, and then the others. So I think the best thing to do is just go over them so you know you're starting from a good point. So I won't bore you with all the angle bit and all the terrifying noises it makes and the fear that comes out of me while I'm doing this. And I'll bring you back when that bit's done and we'll just move on. Right, well that's the horrible, frightening bit over with. They all went down really nicely. There was one of them, I think it was this one here, the one that wanted to creak all the way. That horrible feeling as it sort of creaks and jumps a bit on the bar and it goes, and you think, oh no. No, they all went down perfectly. And the most terrifying bit's the last 45 degrees, but again, they all felt fine. So you can actually feel the stretch and the spring to them as you're going. So not like them other ones that didn't feel like they were going anywhere. Right, back in on. Get those 2 bolts. Then I shall just put the pulleys on, bits and pieces, and get rid of got the cover back. That's the breather welded in it. Some pieces. So it's just quite straightforward assembly really now. So let's what should we do next? Let's put the cam sprockets on. Once you've had a problem with those head bolts, I think you get very nervous about it. I definitely know I do. Watching that poor guy last night when that one snapped off, I was like, oh no. I did have it happen to me once before, say quite a long time ago, where it's always the Torx part that comes off, leaves you about half the Torx, and of course the main part of the bolt is the integral washer, and it's fine. The clamping force doesn't alter. You can, fortunately, by removing the cam and that, get an angle grinder and nip the head off. So when I had to remove that one, I basically masking taped up the whole head and then carefully ground the head off, and it came out as a stud, but not ideal. They're those things you could do without. I mean, obviously it looks completely wrong when you see it with half the bolt head, but no, it still does the job. I couldn't see any point when it happened in chopping it all apart and ruining it and putting it all apart for what wasn't a major disaster in the end. Of course, that moment when it snaps is just one of those bits where you just sink and you think, oh my word, what's happened here? Your first thought is has the bolt actually physically snapped? In the block, or has it ripped the thread out? But I suppose the less of all evils was that happening. Right, let's get this roughly in its right position for timing. Oh, we got one that's actually going to stay there. I bet it won't stay there when I put the belt on. No, we can't be that lucky, can we? Right, nobody move, nobody breathe. It's staying exactly. I bet the second I get with the belt and I go, boom. So, in fact, I think I might go with the belt next. Actually, get that out of the way. No, not big enough. Oops. You see it went? I don't know if you saw that. It went on its own. It's just jumped round. Go around very slowly, obviously with the crankshaft. You don't make any valve contact. I knew that would move. Let's try again. Can't put the belt on, we're missing a part. Right, back in a moment. Well, amazing enough, it didn't move. Well. Well, how about that? That never happened. Well, there we go. In fact, the crank needs to go just a tiny bit more. I can't argue with that. But given that this cylinder head has a very light, had been skimmed slightly, although this head actually was fractionally above the GM specification for a standard head anyhow. So the thing is, obviously, as you lower the head, it does skew the timing slightly, so there will be a very slight variation. It won't be more than one tooth out, but it will slightly skew these, so you have to sort of compromise a little bit. So just set the belt tension, which amazing enough is sitting spot on in the notch where it's supposed to be. Oh well. Must be getting better at this. Sometimes you get one that'll go straight away, and then one of them will fight you. That's actually gone up a bit further now. This, I think I might just let that off a fraction. Let's just see how that's. So I've been picky. I'm just going to come off that fraction. That's better. Right in the middle of the slot now. So I've been picky, it's alright. That's better. I've just been a bit picky there. Right, I'll get ready to put the top on. Right, let's stick the lid on. I've given everything a good dosing up with oil in there. The only places I ever put any sealer is a tiny bit in each corner there, just to help the gasket slide into place. And I do like to put a little piece on the back of the head here on these little cutouts. Again, it just helps it slide into position. On these earlier covers, they do have these O-rings that seal here when the bolts go through to the cam caps. Very important they don't fall out. I always glue them in with a bit of red rubber grease so they stay in. The rest of the gasket will stay there fine, just be careful. There's no need to cover all this in silicone. Doesn't matter. The gasket, a new gasket, will compress fine and it won't leak. Never had a problem. And just make sure you don't knock it off at the front. It should slide in there nicely and sit down like that. Check that the two semicircles have gone in at the back. Oh, boots the camera. That should all line up. That's it. That's gone in there happily. You can actually just see that the gasket's sitting in there. Now, bolt time. Now, this poor thing's been on and off so many times that the threads in the caps have actually gone. They were M6 and they've now been drilled out and rethreaded to M7. That's the special bolt that goes in the one there that's got quite a poorly thread. One rusty bolt, we'll stick him down there. Yes, I am flirting with danger slightly. We haven't got any spark plugs in there and I've got a handful of bolts over the top of the engine. Naughty. Sometimes you've got to live life on the edge. These are basically tightened down until they actually compress the inner part of this cover. The alley goes face to face on the bearing cap. So that's it, then they're as tight as they want to be. Heaving them down any further will only result in the threads ripping out the caps. Oh, another rusty bolt there, look, bad show. Oh, that one's got a 10mm head on it. I couldn't actually find one with the 11mm head on. Right thread, wrong head size. Well, the hundreds and hundreds of bolts I've got laying around, do you think I could find the set same? No chance. So that's that fundamentally done. I'll tighten these up to the required setting. Put the other bits on and I'll bring you back when I'm nearly finished. Well, there we go, all finished. Well, I've put as much on as I've got. I mean, obviously I haven't got any of the major components, manifolds on the engine used, but I've got a coil mounting bracket and a few lifting eyes and water outlet and stuff. Front pulleys on, belt cover and all that. So she's basically done. I sprayed a load of sort of rust preventing spray down the ports, backs of the valves, and then taped them up well. I've had to give it a good dose in the cylinders, and there's lots in the bottom end, so she'll be okay. All the cover's gone down nicely. There's the additional breather, because obviously the factory breathers are here, and because these things are obviously cornering hard to the right, oil in the cover tends to congregate up here and blow the oil into the breather and create pressurizing problems. So the factory breather here comes up normally and runs round to here. This is run off to a separate catch tank, and this is also run to a catch tank, so it's a totally open breathing system. Putting the pipe over there certainly helps. The guy who alley welded that, as you can see, is an absolute star. I'm very envious of that, because this is kind of a composite alley. It's like a magnesium alloy, very thin, so that's pretty impressive. To me, aluminium welding is definitely a dark art. You either can or you can't, and I definitely can't. I have tried, but ooh, she's not pretty. I can glue biggish bits together with some reasonable success, but oh, say pretty is a polite word. Not pretty is a polite word to describe it. Anyhow, that was a quick, well, not a quick video. It's running to half an hour now, but just putting the head together and the basics. You've seen me do this plenty of times, so we're now all caught up with all the engines that needed doing, and no parts left over there on the bench. Considering there's only a handful of parts to put on, it seems as always the inevitable amount of tools you seem to end up with. There's bits here, bits everywhere. Never seems to amaze me just how many tools you end up getting out. So that's it. Sun's coming through now. It's warming up quite nicely. So I think it's time for another tea break and sign off this one. So I hope you enjoyed this little highlights video of finishing this engine off. So please like and subscribe. It's very much appreciated. There is another video coming out on the tractor. Short video of the road test, as we call it, or garden test. And I'll be tinkering with that. A few errands to run today, and see how we get on from there. So thanks so much for watching, and bye for now.